So 10 years ago, Kelly, Scarlett, I know that Scarlett and I were literally just talking about this the other day, so I know Scarlett was there for that. Kelly, I know you remember this. But God, y'all remember when we were doing the first time round? Because like at this point, we have like a giant document that's already 650 billion pages, right? But do you remember before when there were like 3 million circulars and everything was a circular and you had to find the right circular and then they're like, we're going to consolidate it. And I remember thinking to myself, my God, how are they going to do this? No, the old days. Those were fun times. Fun times. I have to say, if we could go back to doing paper apps, I would. I love paper apps. Okay. So one last thing I want to leave you with. Oh, look at this. Such a beautiful, we're just dovetailing into what I wanted to talk about at the end. And then we're going to end right on time. It's going to be beautiful. Beautiful. God, were you really, Scarlett? Then you were the person that, and I'm going to get to my tea in a second, but you were the person then who I remember, I mean, I didn't know you at the time, but I vividly remember thinking to myself, this is a monumental task and they're doing God's work. Like, I just didn't understand because it was so big and so monumental. And the idea of being able to put it all into one little document, one little 650 page document, but you know what I mean? One document seemed so monumental, right? And now we look back and it's been done for years, right? And how fun. Thank you, by the way, Scarlett. Can I just thank you now after all these years? I'm thanking you. Okay. I'm going to throw on my countdown really quick. I need to get more iced tea because I'm feeling very thirsty. And then we'll come back, finish up talking about, I imagine it was a giant team. You know, I can't remember if you all got feedback from, I imagine you did, but I was a baby RA then. Like I was not really that baby because I've been doing this for like 20 years. So I think, let's put it this way. I was not a baby RA, but I lacked confidence in my skill sets. I didn't feel like I had anything to offer. So I don't remember if there was what our involvement as RAs were, but I do know that if I had to go back and do it again now, I would want to be more involved because I realized it wasn't as scary as it seemed. But I feel like, I don't know, like as a new RA, there's just so much stuff. You know, Kelly and I were talking about this earlier, that the job description for this job looks like it's a list of things that you do. And then you get the job and you're like, oh my God, this is a really intense job and has a lot of implications. I am responsible for protecting the organization from millions and millions and millions of dollars in fines and findings. And I am also responsible for stewarding millions and millions and millions of dollars. The strategic importance of our job becomes evident. And I think that it's always been that way, but it's getting more and more and more, like now it's getting more and more intense, right? Just like it's almost if you let gravy simmer for too long, eventually it gets to the point where it's like, too much, put the broth back in, right? You need to like thin it out a little bit more, right? And I feel like that's what's happening. I think we've kind of like congealed it to the, I was too insecure then. And I think one of the best parts about this particular, dude, we couldn't do it without y'all. Like, this is a team effort. But I think one of the things that I like around this time, you know, like when this time around is that I can see the difference in myself, right? I feel more confident now. Like I don't mind talking about these things and putting my foot down and saying, yeah, this is what I learned. And even if I'm wrong, that somebody will call me out on it and we'll learn together. But I remember being so anxious and so nervous when I was younger about just getting it wrong or being seen as a failure, that I think I was hesitant to contribute in a way that would have been as impactful as it could have been. So yeah, Scarlett's being my therapist this morning, everybody. Thank you, Scarlett. Okay, I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to get some tea, and then we're going to talk about quickly. You know what? I don't think we're going to talk about it. I actually think instead we're going to just wrap up, and then I'm just going to make y'all wait for this conversation. We're going to make you wait for it. Okay, here's what you're going to wait for. We're actually, the thing I wanted to close on, but now that I'm looking at it, it's 9:47. We're not going to have enough time to talk about it this week. Is the mistake that mistakes that organizations make when rolling out new technologies. And what I'm hoping to come out of this, and this is why I kind of want more time for it, and so this is a good time to sort of like bring it up and then see if we can marinate on it, is that I was talking to someone the other day who has had a fabulous rollout in their organization for software, and they're like really happy. And I have to tell you, nothing makes me happier than when I'm talking to an RA who is happy about the way things are going in their organization, because we all know that there's a lot of stories of people who are not happy, or they're not feeling cared for, or like they have adequate support or whatever, right? So when we hear stories from like, oh my God, our software rollout was so good, it was fabulous, I'm like, oh my God, please tell me more, please tell me more. So from both being part of successful and failed rollouts, and yeah, Kelly, we're going to talk all about implementation. Bring your friends next week. That's what I sort of want to talk about. I want to talk about what are our successes. So if anyone listening is like, oh, listen, I want to send you an email and tell you about this success story. Oh my God, please do. Please do. If you want to get on a call and tell me about your success story and you're okay with me recording it, I would love to be able to share it with others, because I think the biggest challenge that faces us as research administrators is this. We are isolated. Everybody's all over the country doing their own thing. We get together for, we're gonna meet with my Collaborate community. Hey, Kelly. I'm gonna meet with my magazine community. Hey, Talise. You know, I'm gonna meet with the annual meeting. Like, there's always somebody or the other you're gonna meet in these little buckets. But it's very difficult for us to sort of like have a space where we're like breaking down all these things and almost talking about it like all the time to keep the momentum going. But more importantly, also shining out beacons to each other and saying, oh my God, Kelly did this at her campus. Reach out to her. You know, Julie did this. Alia did this, right? Saika did that, right? And then now we know who has done what, instead of like what like 3 or 4 years ago. And this is still happening in many organizations where Kelly's figuring it out in her organization. I'm figuring it out in my organization. Leah's figuring it out in her organization. Ben is figuring it out in his organization, right? And we're all recreating the wheel individually. So what I'm really excited about is I want to talk to more research administrators who are like, we solved this problem, or this is great, and get those voices out there so that people can be like, I have that problem. I can reach out to that RA and figure out how they did it, right? So that we can quickly, much more quickly than we do now, generate momentum from the University of Michigan to the University of Iowa, you know, to UMass, to whatever it ends up being, right? I know. I have some horror stories too. It's so funny. You know what? We should get on a call, Kelly. We should get on a call and you and I will talk about, this is why we're on the ERA committee together. We should get on a call, record it, and talk about successful and failed implementations, what worked, what didn't. We can pull that out as clips. It would be absolutely fabulous. So, okay, that's what we're going to do. Well, I mean, I'm not volunteering you, Kelly. If you want to do that, then you're more than welcome to. But what we're actually going to do is save the conversation about implementation for next week so that we can talk about it in more detail, spend a little bit more time on it, because there's, you know, we've all got some lessons learned, but there are some universal insights that I think that when shared, though not often listened to, because I think one of the things that any of us who've been involved in implementation and rollout is that we're not often listened to, right? So we are the experts, we've done the thing, but like there is a political vision for software rollouts, and often the implementation aspect of it is it interferes with the political rollout. So what a lot of organizations tend to do is they tell the story of the rollout. However, the rollout's actually happening is not super relevant. It's just, oh, we're rolling something out. Here's the story. Here are the emails. Here's everything is. And then when it suddenly it's radio silence, they have nothing to say, because what they wanted to do was done, in that they rolled it out with a really great story. And then someone else is typically left to pick up the broken pieces of emotion and self-esteem and trauma get created when employees realize that they were not considered as part of a software rollout, right? And so this is sort of how it tends to play out. So there are some definite universal truths related to software implementation that if you follow them, you will have a much more successful rollout. And none of it's rocket science. I think almost all of it is stuff that I guarantee to you, many of us have been saying for years. The challenge, I think, and this is what we're going to bring next week, the challenge as we roll off today, is how do you translate that into a language where the people in the leadership positions actually give a shit about the fact that this is something that's very important that needs to be done. Yeah, Kelly said yes. Okay, we're going to get some fun videos now. This is going to be great. This is fabulous. Okay, as a reminder, if you want to do a fun video with me about literally anything, and you're like, I want to nerd out about whatever, let's get on a video and talk about it. I want you to clip it up and put it on YouTube. And yes, I will do this. I will do this. So just reach out to me and say, I love to nerd out about this. Let's record it. Let's do it.